This is Katie at Granny's Legacy here in the boutique part of our studio where we have the Talavera quilt hanging along with some of our other new projects. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about Talavera quilt and then also go into detail about what comes in the kit and some other useful things that go along with it. Um, so here's the quilt right here. The quilt is made up of 49 7-inch squares. So the pattern uses 24 blocks that are done twice or 2 times each using different colorways so that they appear different. And then there's also an additional 25th block that you make one of that makes the to 49, so that makes your bonus block. And then when it comes to finishing, you can either finish it as a quilt like this, or there'll also be instructions to make more of a bed runner, table runner, whatever you want to call it, size project 2, which you would use 48 of the blocks. So that's that. So if you signed up for that, I'll just walk through the project kit and pattern that you receive every month. So it'll come in the mail like this. This is the kit, so it has all the wools in it. And then we'll open into it. And so if you've ordered the kit, all the goodies come like this, laid out for each block. So there's 1 block, 2 blocks, set this off to the side, 3 blocks, and the 4th block. So it comes with the batik that we've used for the background, and then the artisan dyed wools that you will also need to complete that block. So that all comes in here. And then the wools are dyed by Tim and Katrina Zink, who are our in-house wool dyeing called Woolly Mammoth. And they also helped us with the design of the blocks this year for this project. So now onto the patterns. They look like this. So each month you get 2 block patterns. Block 1 and block 2 was sent out in January. And it consists of a block 1 pattern and a block 2 pattern. So if we take a closer look inside your pattern, we try to write our patterns to be very user-friendly. So since you make the same block twice, there's a block A and a block B that look like that, A and B. And so the tracing comes on an A sheet and a B sheet, A and B. And we've laid it out so that if you use a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square of wool, the shape is laid out on a 2.5 inch square. So you know that if you trace it as we've laid it out, it will fit on the wool provided. So that's our tracing. And then for layout, you also get a color picture with where each shape goes, so you can get them laid out okay. And then when it comes to stitching, you also get another good size picture and then very detailed instructions on which thread was used and which stitch we've used to create the look of the block that we've done. We always like to say a pattern is merely a suggestion. So if you get to a block and you say, you've used a chain stitch, but I think I'd really like to do a stem stitch, or you've used a colonial knot, but I'd really like to try maybe doing a bullion rose in the middle of that or something like that. We leave that up to you. Please feel free to make this project your own. Have fun with it. So that's the stitching. And then back up here a little bit. So you, in your kit, you are receiving your background squares are 9 inches square. And then when you're all done stitching, we have you trim them up to a 7.5 inches. And for that, a 7.5 inch ruler comes in handy. And we do carry these on our website, Granny'sLegacyPatterns.com. If you're interested, but a 7.5 inch ruler is very, very helpful. So the first thing we do, here I'll clean up a little bit. The first thing we recommend doing before you start laying out your block is to take a long ruler, and I'm actually going to use, since I forgot to grab one here, I'm just going to lay this on here, and we want you to find the center of your block with a chalk marking pencil. We've used a mechanical pencil, just going from corner to corner and marking. Normally I would use like a longer version of this. So this is, we want to go about 4.5, and we'll draw a line across. And 4.5 would be half of that. But we just want to mark that center point coming from all angles. So on the diagonal and on the square. So you may or may not be able to see that. We've taken a chalk marking pencil to do that. And one caution to use when using a chalk marking pencil is that steam will make it kind of permanent. So before you iron it and steam it, you'll want to use like a Norwex microfiber or something and just kind of be sure to get most of your line off. So you're all ready then. So when layout comes, you'll have that set so that you can line your leaves up on the square so that you know what's going to fit within your block. You want to be careful to try to get your appliques as centered as possible so that when you go to trim, your block is centered. So centering the block is important. So that's how we did that. And then I'll talk quick a little bit about the other products we have put together for this that just make it a breeze. So the first one I'll talk about is the Bone Mechanical Pencil. It's a really nice high quality marking chalk pencil. The lead is great. It's not too soft. It just writes beautifully. It doesn't break. And it does come with a few refill leads when you buy it. It comes packaged like this. And we also carry the leads in several different colors. I think there's pink, yellow, green, silver. There's all sorts of colors. So that is really useful and it writes beautifully. The other thing we love for wool applique is a serrated blade scissors. These Havel 6-inch scissors are our personal favorite. We love them. They're great. They're serrated, so I say it's like cutting bread with a bread knife versus a butcher knife. When you cut wool with a serrated blade, it just cuts all the way to the tip. So if you're doing like the inside of a star or the top of a heart, you don't have to try to maneuver the back of your scissors. The tip of the scissors is just as sharp as the inside, so you can just snip really accurately. Also, the blades are pretty thin. So that doesn't bulk up when you're cutting. It doesn't tend to push away. It just draws the wool right in. So these are an awesome scissors, and I think they're under $20. Yep, $19. So they're just a great tool to have, and they stay sharp for a very long time. So those are also on our website, grannieslegacypatterns.com, and they're on the Notions tab. You can find any of these notions on the Notions tab or under the TALAVERA listing in the club. So those are awesome. Pencil's awesome. We also like to use Heat and Bond Light. The company probably doesn't know we exist. I'm not like a paid promoter. It's just a product we like. It works every time. It has a great bond. It's strong enough to hold through the whole project, yet it doesn't goop up and it's not hard to stitch through. So we love Heat and Bond Light. That's an awesome for the project. And then our favorite needles are the 7 embroidery needles. They work wonderfully with the pearl cotton. It has a big enough eye to thread, but the needle itself is thin enough that it just glides in and out of the fabric beautifully. Especially when we're working with the batiks that are a little tighter woven, the thinner depth or diameter of the needle really does help, and it really does make it nice. So the last thing that's really helpful whenever you're working with wool is a pressing sheet. This is our Pressing Affair pressing sheet. It's our in-house product. And here, let me clean up here a little bit. And it is actually what you see right here. It is sheer, it is woven, and when you put it down over your project, you can still see through it, which is awesome. And it's thin enough that it doesn't move your shapes around. And the most awesome thing about it is that your steam will go through it because it's porous. So you can see through it, your steam will go through it, and the steam is what you need to get a really good bond with your fusibles. So sometimes if your fusibles are peeling up, it's probably because you're not getting enough steam. So this really prevents your steam to go through, but it doesn't prevent the steam. It helps your steam to go through. It allows that steam to go through your pressing sheet, but it prevents the burning, scorching, and iron marking. And wool is so delicate that it burns and scorches so easily. So this is really an awesome tool to have when you're working with wool, and we highly recommend it. We've created, for the TALAVERA Club, we call it a starter pack or a notions pack, and it comes with a Heat and Bond Light, the scissor, a Pressing Affair, your marking pen, and a package of needles, and it all comes together, and we've offered it at a discounted rate when you buy it together, and it's all packaged in a larger version of this bag. So it all comes to you packaged and ready to go in a project bag. So that is available to you as well. And then the last thing I should show you is the thread kit for this club. We love the Valdani pearl cottons. They're beautiful hand-dyed pearl cotton, and they just blend so beautifully with the artisan dyed wools. So this project, we've used 12 to create the quilt, and so the 12 of them are available to you packaged, and when you buy them in a kit, there's a little bit of a discount as well. And that can be found on our website, the thread kit, on the Talavera listing on our club page. So if you need your threads, they're a beautiful palette to have, so those are available to you as well. Another thing that is helpful, if you're just getting started, or even if you just you're kind of like me and you haven't used a stitch for a couple months, and then you go back to do it and you just need a little refresher, our favorite book is this Hand Embroidery Stitches at a Glance, and it's really awesome. This is our very favorite. So when people ask us, we need a stitch book, what do you recommend? This is always our #1 go-to. They're $8.50, very affordable. And the cool thing about it is it gives a written illustration and a drawn illustration. So if you're like me, you can read about it and see it. And some people are visual learners, so they have it drawn out so they can see it. And some people need to read, so you can just read about it. But these are our favorite books. They have colonial knots, bullion knots, all the basic stitches are in here. So these are awesome as well. So I thank you for joining me here in the Granny's Legacy Boutique Studio in our corner of new stuff. Just kind of a little sneak peek that's popping up here. This project right here is called Spring Folly, and it will be in the Primitive Quilts and Projects magazine that is coming out, I think, later this week or next week it starts to ship. So this project, the pattern is in that magazine, and we will have kits available on our website. And then we also have two. These are for our Festives, which is a fun block of the month featuring wool applique 11.5-inch scalloped mat. So right here, this one was called Sweetheart Vine, and this is the January project. And this one, we haven't come up with a name yet. It's been the debate here. We have a whole board of names for it. And this will be the February project. So that's another fun club that we have going on that is also available through Granny's Legacy Patterns. And so we thank you for joining us here today. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have. We're here to help you. Happy stitching.